Today's top picks from Reuters Breaking Views: why Panditgate adds urgency to RBS's CEO succession, and the EU takes a step towards a banking union, probably. We'll get Breaking Views' take on this. Robert Cole joins me.
Hiya.
Morning to you, Robert. Royal Bank of Scotland, Hester. It looks pretty good, in fact, what he's been doing, and they're now on track, it seems. Do you think he should go now while the going's good?
Well, I think it's really important to say what we're not saying at this stage. We are not saying that Hester should go. We are not saying that he's a bad manager. We're saying quite the opposite, that he's good, and that he's actually served RBS pretty well, actually very well. Very hard deck of cards to field, and he's done it pretty well in the last few years.
To be fair, though, Robert, Vikram Pandit's unceremonious ouster from Citigroup shows the wisdom of quitting while ahead. I mean, it's a sort of subtle way of saying, look, we think you should probably go now while it's good.
Well, we're not. We're not saying that he should go because he's done a bad job.
No, of course
we
not.
are saying that there is a significant risk that he might want to go, and that would be against the best interests of Royal Bank of Scotland shareholders, because he's a good guy, you know. And yes, I wouldn't be surprised if he was saying, actually, you know what? I've got the bank on an even keel. I've got out of the asset protection scheme. We got rid of direct line. We're on it. We can grow. We're now moving towards a stage where we can think about a prospectus for the resale of the government shares,
which is 2014, I think, or
yeah,
thereabouts.
So, and so this is the time he might think, well, okay, let's quit while we're ahead. So what we're saying is here, I think that firstly that the RBS board ought to be saying, well, can we do anything to make sure that Hester's still motivated, that he could still convince that he has a job to do and a very valuable role to play? And if that's, and clearly in the context of Pandit's surprise departure from Citigroup, he's kind of quitting while he's ahead. He might not be thinking that. He might be thinking, let's fund. And if he does go, therefore, there is, and that might be his instinct. Clearly, RBS has to think about the succession as well.
Yeah, well, and that's what I wanted to mention, because of course, on the other side of this, tough for a successor to step into the shoes of someone like Hester, who has done such a bloody good job.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Which is one of the other reasons why I would say that a lot of effort should go into the suggestion that Hester should stay where he is. And I mean, we've got a lot of time for him, but how long has he been the chief executive of this bank? 5 years or something? That's a decent amount of time. Again, you wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to go and do something else. But I think that we could actually give more time and have a culture. It would be great if our boardrooms had a bit more of the culture of, well, let's stay here and do my career here, rather than sort of do 5 years here and 5 years there.
No, it doesn't work like that anymore. All right, just want to get your take quickly, just a quick take on this EU banking union story that we got out of Brussels last night. Before we do, let's just listen to what the French president had to say about it.
Ce soir, on a réussi.
This evening, with the banking union, we managed to get back stability and efficient mechanisms necessary for tomorrow to avoid a banking crisis. I think for the markets and public opinion, for all those who are waiting for Europe to get back on track, it was a good evening.
All right, good evening for the markets. The banks are down today. Not such a good evening for the banks. It seems. I don't know. What's your take on this?
I think probably the best way of looking at this is if the opposite had happened. It would be a disaster. No agreement made, and if Hollande couldn't stand up there and say, "Look, we've taken a step forward," it would have been very, very bad for banks and or for Europe and all that kind of thing. So, what we think it is actually a significant but relatively small step forward. It's probably the most significant thing about it is that the Germans seem to have slightly weakened their stance, but I think that all that's actually happened, as far as I can ascertain, is that they have agreed a relatively tight timetable.
January next year.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But they've still got to actually get to an agreement by that timetable. And all these questions about the nature and the remit of the bailout mechanisms, which is a real and really important part of this scheme, still seem to have to be ironed out. And and that's what the Germans are very worried about that for very good reason, because they'll end up paying for most of it. And, while they are saying perhaps, OK, yeah, we'll go along with this, we do need a tight timetable, and we're happy to try and thrash it out over that time, doesn't necessarily mean to say they're weakening.
Yep. All right, Robert, thanks for that. Robert Cole, if you want to watch our US Breaking Views show, comes on every day, 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 BST. Those are the live times. Of course, you can watch it on demand on the Insider platform as well as Reuters.com. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.